Enivironment talk to Catherine Connolly.
Euro has already raised this question in a slightly different way, but both are the same, really. And Minister, as you know, this is something I followed up continuously. I don't know many questions I've tabled. And what I'm specific, I think it's very good that there's a community-led category. I welcome that, and I welcome the changes. My problem is I don't know where the analysis. I've asked repeatedly for details of the analysis carried out by the department in relation to those who rose to take the challenge of running community-led schemes and the challenges they faced, the reasons why they dropped out and so on. I've asked continuously for that and been promised the details, never got it.
Thank you very much indeed. Community projects category was included in the Res 1 and Res 2 competitions. In total, seven community projects were successful in Res 1 auction. 4 projects remain in progress and are either energised or due to energise this year. In Res 2, 8 community projects were successful in the auction, are continuing to progress and are currently expected to energise by the end of 2025. Through my department's and SEAI's continued engagement with renewable energy communities, there is evidence of significant challenges that the renewable energy community projects may face. These challenges include the competitive auction-based nature of RES, along with grid, financial, general know-how and other barriers to project delivery. My department's analysis is that the auction and contractual delivery-based nature of the RES does not align well with the capacities and structures of communities. Grid connection costs and uncertainties are a major challenge for communities, which is something that the crew is examining as part of a review of its electricity generation policy. In addition, the financial risks associated with being unsuccessful in a RES auction are difficult for a community to manage, particularly in the current challenging macroeconomic environment where supply chains and inflationary pressures are adding additional project risks. The Small-Scale Renewable Energy Support Scheme, SRES, will offer such projects a simpler, non-competitive route to market. Potential SRES applicants will know the export tariff they are eligible for before planning for their project begins. This will give them more certainty compared to the competitive RES scheme.
As somebody that supports what you're saying, Minister, I have a sense of frustration. I've asked, just the Junior Minister was there on the last occasion, on the 28th of September, and he said he would contact my office. I got an acknowledgement and nothing else in relation to the details of the analysis carried out. So in Res 1, I've been repeatedly told that 7 community-led projects were successful, 4 remain. I'd like to know what happened to the other 3. What were the difficulties? I'd like to know where the analysis is. I'd like to see it. And then in relation to Res 2, 8 communities were successful. How many of those remain? How many of those remain? Are they all solar in relation to solar energy? Are there other energy? What are the possibilities here? I think, like Deputy O'Rourke, I agree that this is a very exciting area. It's a way to both power and empower communities. And I think of my own city in Galway and the different areas, Claddagh, Shuntala, all of these areas that could be self-sufficient, in my opinion. But I really would like to see the analysis. So if you could depart from the script and tell me how you've come to this change, which I welcome, taking it out of the auction system, I welcome that, but give me the evidence, please.
Came to this change in a sense because the current system wasn't working. The auction-based system, similar to our initial back in the early 2000s, there had been a similar competitive bidding system. One of the reasons projects run into difficulty, and there are several, is that people were bidding down so tight that they weren't able to actually get financing and get it built. And that was a particular issue in the last 2 to 3 years, because what happened with the war in Ukraine and coming out of COVID, the supply chain constraints, the price of steel went up, the price of PV panels went up, the price of every aspect, contractors and so on, and it meant that they weren't able to deliver the projects as expected. Now, we will see those 4, all going well, delivered under Res 1, and the 8 in Res 2 are progressing. It's not guaranteed that every single one of them will go to final delivery, but we want them, we need them. But it was time's out. It was seeing that the current system was not working drove us towards a different approach, which takes the financing risk out in the sense that you know your price before you start the project, And that financing certainty is very helpful in my mind. It's one of the obstacles. The grid and planning is the other that we need to overcome.
I don't disagree with you, Minister. I'm delighted they're out of the auction system. They should have never been in it in the first place. And when we declared a climate emergency, we were talking about transformative change, because the model that we had of the corporate model with energy and other models simply hadn't worked. And that's why we need transformative change. And that will come from the ground up, from nowhere else. And from the ground up, that whatever initiative comes forward, and when the communities come forward, they need help and they need financial assistance. Now, you've said the technical expertise is there from Sustainable Energy Ireland, and there will be financial aid. I would really like to know, when you stand up and tell us you changed, which I welcome, on what basis. I'd like to be empowered so I can help empower my communities as to how they go forward. So where are the challenges spelled out in the analysis that your department has done for the ones that dropped out, with huge effort on their part when they came forward? And maybe they could come forward again if we knew what challenges they faced. So is there a piece of research somewhere in your office or your department that we can have access to, so that we can empower ourselves and, more importantly, empower our communities?
Aire.
I think one of the other key developments we need to now work on, and CRU is the Commission for Regulation of Utilities have been tasked with this, and will very shortly conclude that work in terms of grid connection policy. I think that if I was to look at what is the various different aspects, I think that has been one of the biggest challenges. I've seen it in my own work or meeting various community groups, that they often, you might have a grid connection point, but it needs to be, they take the full, in a sense, cost of the upgrade of the grid to be able to provide for, typically solar being one of the largest examples. And I think the development of solar for community, in my mind, is a very positive development, because it can come in economically, but the grid constraint and the cost of the grid upgrade has been one of the biggest obstacles. And I expect CRU to come back with the new connections policy that will help us. That, combined with the regulatory certainty around price and support for that. Is there a document somewhere? Is there analysis? There will be a document published in the very near future from CRU.
Margaret.
The changes on the auction system was, from my assessment, my own personal assessment, that it needed a much more guaranteed, stable, certain pricing regime, particularly for communities.